Hello and welcome to Plus Sports on PlusTvAfrica. I am your host, Mikhail Tinubu. Today we start with Poland striker Robert Lewandowski, who said on Monday, May 30th, his story with Bayern Munich was over and he could not imagine staying on with the German champions. One thing is certain today, my story with Bayern is over after everything that has happened in recent months. I cannot imagine further good cooperation, Lewandowski said during a news conference on international duty. I realize the transfer will be the best solution for both sides. Bayern sports director Hassan Salihamidzic said earlier this month that Lewandowski informed the club's boss that he wanted to leave, confirming reports the Bundesliga's second highest all-time goal scorer could be on his way out, despite having a contract until 2023. The 33-year-old joined in 2014 from Borussia Dortmund and has won the Bundesliga every year since then, as well as the Champions League in 2020. Now I have with me today what's your name? Atobatele. It's a pleasure having you, and I know a lot of these stories are going to come up more now that the season is over. Transfer stories, players choosing to let their contracts run out. But Lewandowski is such a high-profile striker, perhaps one of the very few natural number 9s left in the game. How much of an issue is this going to pose for Bayern Munich, and are they going to let him go?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, looking at Robert Lewandowski. So, he joined Bayern Munich, known as Bayern Munich as well. So in 2014, and since then, and he performed creditably well for Bayern Munich, so helping them to Bundesliga titles year in, year out. Of course, going ahead to win the most prestigious club football in the world, that is UEFA Champions League. So, and for me, looking at Bayern Munich, that is why it is important, to develop football, right at the grassroots, you understand. So, but replacing, Bayern, Robert Lewandowski, wouldn't be a problem, so Bayern Munich, because they have, a growing list of enterprise, young lads, who are coming through the ranks. Because, looking at the academy, so, what they churn out, every season, so you will be marveled and impressed, with the way they handle things at Bayern Munich. So, and remember, they are the dominant force as far as German Bundesliga is concerned. So, and one of the biggest, force in European football. So, but now, they just have to let him go because he had won everything, for Bayern Munich and for himself as well. So now it is time for him to take up a new challenge. So, and when at the peak of your career, one of the bigger clubs, of course, is trailing you. You just have to, you have to look back, see where you're coming from. What have you achieved in the past years? Going forward. So, what do you want to achieve in the coming years?
He famously turned down Real Madrid for a chance to play for Bayern Munich for these past few years. And now he's potentially going to sign for their rival, a Barcelona team that we're hearing might still find it difficult to even register him. They've recently signed Christensen from Chelsea on a free, Frank Kessie from Milan on free, but these players can't be registered just quite yet until they've cleared more money off of their wage bill. Otherwise, trying to go for Lewandowski would be a fool's errand, right?
Yeah, we have to, diverge this, from two different angles. You understand? So one, we have to look, at the Galacticos, Real Madrid. Of course, you turn them down. So and choosing Bayern instead. as at the time, of course, that could have happened. So, Real Madrid, of course, have in their rank, best of the best players in the world. So, and as a player, you have to, put your card on the table to assess it. Of course, going to this club at this time, will it favor me or not? You understand? So, no player, want to go to a club and sit on the bench, because every player wants to get on the pitch, and show the kind of stuff he's made of. You understand? So, want to make a statement, while playing. So, and for a caliber of Robert Lewandowski, going to Real Madrid, sitting on the bench, getting few playing times, might affect him psychologically, and once it's down psychologically, it may become hard for him, to get up again.
Well,
then, and again, of course, looking at Barcelona, of course, they need to clear, some wages of the babe before they can register, Frank Kessie and of course another players, on their list. So, for Robert Lewandowski teaming up with Barcelona at this point in time, it's going on a free transfer on a bossman rule. You understand? So, but.
Well, actually, no, because his contract ends in 2023. So Barcelona would have to pay a fee as well as his wage to get him on the books. Meanwhile, the La Liga rules do prevent that. However, I am sure that no matter what happens, whether Barcelona are able to pick him up or not, Lewandowski will not be short of suitors, especially with Chelsea potentially needing a striker capable of replacing the failing boots of Lukaku. Now, speaking of Chelsea, Roman Abramovich has completed the sale of Chelsea and related companies to an investment group led by Todd Boehly and Clear Lake Capital, the Premier League club said on Monday, May 30th. The consortium, which won the bid to acquire the London side earlier this month, received approval from the Premier League and British government last week for the sale to go ahead. In a statement, the club said Boehly and Clear Lake would share joint control and equal governance of the club. Boehly, who is part owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, will serve as chairman of the holding company. We are honored to become the new custodians of Chelsea Football Club. We're all in 100%, every minute of every match, Boehly said. Now, the saga is finally over. The end of an era. I saw something online. Someone said you can take Roman out of Chelsea, but you cannot take Chelsea out of Roman. The man truly loved the club, and he was willing to incur losses just to keep the club competitive. And that one of the loans he gave, in fact, the chunk of it, has been forgiven, because first of all, the British government don't want him to get any money out of the sale. And because he says it is more important for him that Chelsea continues to thrive. The future of Chelsea now, obviously we don't expect the kind of errant spending spree that they had under Roman Abramovich. However, are they going to still be competitive at a time when it seems like Man City are running away with every title in front of them, and Liverpool are somehow, as lean as they are keeping up pace?
Well, yeah, for Chelsea, they'll still remain at Chelsea, because a change of ownership, of course, will automatically not affect, the playing philosophy, of the club. But, one thing that is certain is recruiting, of course, their recruiting ideology. So, that, will change a bit, because during Abramovich era, so, he made a sole decision. So, yeah, if you want to get a player, so he decide and get a player he wants or he likes to be in the team. But, but at this new era, so, there must be a joint decision. So, and the spending spree, of course, the football world, we won't witness that again, because, they have to, they have to be extra careful, in order not to try the wrath of FIFA, UEFA, and co. So,
Well,
in terms of a spending spree on players, that is one. Then, secondly, yeah, just as you rightly pointed out that, you can take Abramovich out of Chelsea, but you can't take Chelsea out of Abramovich. Of course, yeah, it's leaving a legacy. And the incoming board, of course, we have to try harder, either to surpass, the legacy positively, or to maintain the legacy positively. Because if you can't surpass the legacy, it's leaving behind, you have to make sure you
Part of the
maintain.
deal was to ensure that fan representation would be on the board. And even the consideration has now been made by the new owners to have an ex-player be a part of the board in a non-executive role.
Yeah, it is no, yeah, in football world, it is not just bringing ex-players into the board. You understand? So if you are a good player in your days, that does not mean you be a good administrator.
Well, but
You
look at
understand?
the likes of Juventus, who have done well with the likes of Nedved being on their board. The likes of Bayern Munich have Rummenigge, a famous past player. And some of these players can give perspective on not just what the fans want, what is best for the players, but the understanding of the tradition of the club at its very core. Those kinds of positions being filled by ex-players, don't you think it could be beneficial for an ownership that is coming from across the Atlantic?
Yeah, sometimes, it is beneficial and sometimes it is counterproductive, you understand? So, because if you are looking at an ex-player, coming on board to hold that sensitive position, so, it has to be a player with the technical know-how, you understand? So not just a player anyhow, you understand? So, you don't say because, this player, of course, played for this club, he was a legend here, you bring him on board. No, you have to juxtapose it, so, to actually get the best out of these players. Not every one of them, of course, are good in that position. So you have to go for the best. Those, who can add value, to the club, not those who will come to the club, and destabilize, the philosophy, the new board, the coaching crew is trying to build on how the team plays, of course, and that may affect the club status, with UEFA, the FIFA, and other. But for me, if they want ex-players, they still got some players that are brilliant, such as our own ex-international. He was a former staff of the club, Mike Emenalu. Then they also have this guy, a former player, Claude Makalili. So those are brilliant guys, of course, that can turn things around positively, when they are given that position, to hold.
Sounds to me like an administrative skill set is what is required. And speaking of administrative abilities, UEFA has commissioned an independent report into the events surrounding Saturday's Champions League final after ticket fraud and crowd trouble marred the showpiece event in Paris. Europe's football governing body said on Monday, May 30th. The comprehensive review will examine decision-making, responsibility, and behaviors of all entities involved in the final, UEFA said. The report will be independently compiled with member of the Portuguese Parliament and the President of the Parliamentary Committee of Environment and Energy, Dr. Taiwo Brandao Rodriguez, leading production of the review. Now, I think it is still shockingly unforgivable for us to have a situation like this, where a showpiece event like the Champions League final, the biggest event in club football, is happening. And granted, the venue had to be changed. The entire venue of the nation where it was going to be hosted had to be changed. We understand that. It can take about a year to plan for such a thing. Still, a lot of the problems we saw seem to affect mostly Liverpool fans. And for 3 hours, they were standing out in the cold. And it happened to people in such delicate positions. Joel Matip's brother, who had to run away with his pregnant wife when the crowd was getting antsy. And it seemed from reporters who were at the scene that it was more provocative it was more provocations coming from the French police than the fans themselves. It wasn't hooliganism that created this mess. And yet, UEFA, French police, they're throwing shade, they're throwing responsibility, passing it to each other, and trying to avoid being held at fault. When something like this is happening, how do we get through the noise and find who is really culpable? Because this production that they're talking about, this review, is being handled by people who are involved, intimately involved with the organization of this event.
Yeah, it's a norm everywhere. So, I'm looking into sport generally. So, you see, ugly things, happening everywhere. So, but and that is why, FIFA is prioritizing, sensitizations, of fans before and after every football match, because you have to, orientate these fans. So, there should be a good comportment, in and around, our sporting venue. So, because fans will come, everybody will come, they will want to see one or two things, you understand? So, and when there is no good comportment, it may, of course, it may be a start point, for fans not wanting, to be at a live event, to see, their sporting stars again. But, looking at this issue, I trust that UEFA on this, so they will surely get, to the root of the whole thing, of course, and unearth, the culpables, you understand? Because I think I read something, few days ago that they are setting up a committee, you understand, so to make sure they dig deep down, you understand, so trying to, alliance with French FA, then together with UEFA disciplinary committee, so to make sure, all this thing, of course, it's brought, the people behind this, of course, are brought to books, of course, curb, such manners, not to happen in future sporting activities. But one thing, of course, I must emphasize here is football, has gone beyond this, so because it is the biggest sporting event in the world, because it is apolitical and universal. It brings our people together, irrespective, of your tribe, race, and religion, but at the end of the day, it makes you happy and makes you sad, depending on the outcome of the game. But we do not want to see this kind of ugly incident within football, circuit again.
Well, you must be one of the few people who do trust UEFA at this point, with all of the football scandals we've had from FIFA, from UEFA. Moving on, just over a week after Manchester City dramatically clinched a fourth Premier League title in 5 seasons, Chairman Khalid Al-Mubarak praised the quality of new strikers signings, Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez. City have agreed a deal in principle with Borussia Dortmund for star striker Haaland, who scored 86 goals in 89 games during his time in Germany, whilst Argentine Julian Alvarez will join following the end of his loan spell at River Plate. Alvarez, who penned a 5.5-year deal in January, scored 6 goals in an 8-1 Copa Libertadores victory over Alliance Lima last Wednesday. Al-Mubarak said also that the club's transfer business was not finished, with further quality signings in mind before the start of the next season. I just want to keep this brief because we're running out of time. Is Man City ever going to give up the position they're in? They have they're one of the richest clubs in the division, and they're already ahead of everybody else. And every season, they never stop buying. Even if the player cost 100 million and he's going to spend about 40% of the season on the bench, where does the rest of the league gain any advantage in potentially winning the title next?
Yeah, I remember, during the pandemic, like 2020, when the league, of course, was being touted, to stop abruptly. So the FA had to call the meeting of a Premier League, of course, this thing. So, the weaker teams, said the weaker team, of course, they did not agree, at the league, of course, they should stop because knowing fully well that the top 3, 4 teams, of course, yes, so are running away with points. So why stopping the league abruptly? So because they have the muscle and the financial power, to rumble the jungle in the transfer market. So whereas they don't have that kind of financial ability, so attract big name players, to their rank. But now looking at the Manchester City, it is not just about buying players every season. So the quality, of course, they have in their rank, I think is enough for them, to walk them through the next 5 seasons. So if of course, if perfectly, managed, just build on the success, the team recorded the last season, by bringing in, 1 or 2 players to beef up the loopholes. Of course, you noticed, the priority is Champions League. They have the quality, If if they can play like 2 finals, in 2 seasons, 2 finals in 2 seasons, it tells you that the quality is there, to get them to finals every season. But one thing is missing. What is missing, of course, is the ability, to keep the momentum going. So when, of course, they find themselves, in the knockout stages of the Champions League, I think for me the positions they need to beef up is the holding and midfield, of which Fernandinho, of course, is leaving. Then they also have now they are not a club. They have not been a club, with much emphasis, on players from the academy or from the youth team graduating into the senior teams. They always go, for ready-made players that can give them, instant result. But at the end of the day, let's see how everything pans out in transfer market for Manchester City.
All right, thank you, Tolu. It's a pleasure having you today. Your voice is well appreciated. As always, my name is Mikhail Tinubu. To everyone at home, to everyone at work, wherever you're choosing to catch Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa, it's a pleasure having you choose us. Remember, life is never boring with some sports. Have a wonderful day.